Welcome to Straightway Through with Gina, the podcast where we say it straight, say it true, say it kind to the best of our ability every time, which means imperfectly. I certainly fall a lot when it comes to communication, and I have an overwhelming, inspired interest in getting better and better at communicating because I know my relationships get better every time I spend, whether it's 5 minutes or 5 days or 5 years, going deeper into communication. So I have a special guest here today who is going to introduce himself in a moment. Darion and I are going to talk about something related to communication and with the hopes that it helps you right now, today, practically in a relationship or a situation that you're in. So first, I would love to introduce you to Darion Rae. And Darion, please tell
Oh,
us just a little bit about yourself. Who are you? How did you get here?
yes. So yeah, my name is Darion, online entrepreneur, hip hop artist. I am a son, a brother, and a partner to my lovely girlfriend. And how I got here is mostly, well, how we met was through LinkedIn and through the entrepreneurship route. And yeah, just chasing curiosity and passion, really.
Hmm. So let me ask you, what has you interested in communication? Because I feel like this is different for everyone. Like when you hear like the word communication, what does it mean to you? What does it mean in your relationships? Like how did you even want to say yes to a podcast that talks about communication?
Yeah, yeah, it's evolved over time. Growing up, I was heavily into sports, and so communication was key, especially in team sports. And so it became I was more in a leadership role playing basketball growing up. And then as I got older, more mature, and started dating and running a business and things like that, it became more of a less about me trying to get a point across and more about listening. So for me
Mm,
now, communication actually starts with listening, and then everything else kind of comes from there.
yeah, that's interesting. The last guest I had on, our whole topic was listening.
Yeah.
Because
Okay.
it is such a key part of communication. We tend to think of the talking part, but listening is vital. And you mentioned sports, the communication in sports. A lot of it is nonverbal.
It
And
is.
you have to listen not just to words, but you have to be able to read nonverbal communication.
Yeah, and it's been really interesting for me on my journey doing what I'm doing now versus then, because when I was playing basketball, I was more leading by example. That was sort of my style. I would go out there, give it my all. Of course, there were moments I had to be vocal, but now in because I'm more in the coaching consulting space now, what I'm doing, you can't just lead by example. You can, of course, if I ask my clients, hey, you need to be doing outreach or creating content, like of course I'm going to do that as well. But it's less, you can't just directly watch me. They can't watch me in my day to day.
Mhm.
So they only get me on those calls. So now my communication has had to change slightly and evolve more
Mm,
into me understanding what are they actually struggling with, meeting them where they're at, because you
mhm.
can't do that without listening.
That's right. Wow, that's great. Yeah, so you have to show up and communicate in a different way. And I like all this, and I wanna touch on all this, but I'm fascinated. I like to go a little bit with where my mind fascinates me when you say something, and so when we're talking about sports, and I'm thinking about sports, and I'm thinking about playing basketball and moving around, I imagine that you could really play like, if we were to just think about communication in terms of being a player on a basketball team, you could really do that. The communication could be either really poor or really amazing, meaning you could show up and just play your part or your position. I don't even know what it's called in basketball, your
Yeah.
role selfishly, meaning like not really communicating with your teammates. And that could hurt you. It could hurt them. It could hurt the team. It could hurt the overall goal. So that communication, I would imagine, has to get really sophisticated because you're not talking, you are communicating with your team members, and you're even communicating with the other team.
Yeah, and it's tricky too because it's such a competitive environment. So if you're losing, you really have to have a really solid grip on sort of your emotional state. Try to stay even keel as much as possible. But to be honest, when I was playing at a competitive level, that was when I was young. I was, in my teens. So there was a lot of mistakes that I made, and
Mhm.
I definitely wasn't a master of it by any means.
Yeah, but that's so nice that you had that back. It was like a learning background in communication through sports.
Oh yeah. I mean, sports taught me so much.
And how do you connect that to when you are in the coaching space now and you are having to listen and then advise or share or suggest or whatever you do? How do you feel like what you learned on the basketball court influenced
Yeah.
that or shaped that? Or how did that skill help you where you are today?
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's such a good question, and something I've been thinking about a lot over the last year as I've been trying to evolve my leadership style and my leadership skills and stuff. So I would say the biggest thing for me is the separation between understanding, kind of like you mentioned earlier, was we all have different roles, right? Especially in a team sport, everyone's playing a part. Even if you're not the leader, you still have a role. And understanding what that role is or where they are and how they view themselves in what they're doing. So, for
Mm,
example, to get a little more specific,
mhm,
is a lot of my clients I work with mostly intermediate type of entrepreneurs. So they're not doing, millions of dollars, but they're not absolute beginners. But
mhm,
a lot of them don't see themselves as business owners. They
mm,
don't have that identity yet that they run a real business. And so
mm,
I have to learn how to meet them there
mhm,
and try to understand, okay, how can I communicate to them in a way, because they each have their own story, they each have their own beliefs and their own worldviews.
mhm,
So the struggle and the similarity between basketball was the same thing. It's how about that guy who barely gets any playing time? How can
mm,
I communicate with him in a way that he doesn't just feel like, oh, this guy's the leader and he's just telling me what to do? How can I
mm.
meet him and level with him? And so that to me has been the biggest thing that transferred over.
Yeah, I think that's so beautiful. And the way I see it is it's almost because you really it's really a skill to be able to identify where someone is at and be able to you have to see that first. You know, if you don't see that and you miss that and you're just communicating with them from the place that you think they're at, you the communication does not go well. So it's like when I think about a basketball team, when I think of if you know like what's the name of a position on a basketball team?
Point guard.
Point guard. Okay, so if you know the point guard is supposed to do X, Y, and Z, sometimes the point guard doesn't even know he's supposed to do X, Y, and Z. Right? It's almost like you have to know what his role is, and then you have to know if he sees himself and understands that role and the congruency there or the lack of it. And then you can come in and through that listening or watching or seeing or observing, you pick up things and then you know how to talk to him, you know where he's at. Which I mean, all of this leads right into our topic, which we haven't even introduced yet, which is getting a peek inside of people's minds. So that's what you said you like to do and you like to think about in terms of because I think it's really interesting. We all have so many similarities, meaning we all have a mind, but there's and we all have thoughts and a lot of those thoughts are similar, but there's so much variation in like what we do with those thoughts or how we organize them or right all of those things. So what drew you to this topic? Like why did you choose this topic for our conversation?
Yeah, I think it's just the most important and most fascinating part of the social dynamic and communication for me, because
Mhm,
it's so easy to just talk about things that you know and things you understand and want people to think you're great
mhm,
and everything in between.
mhm,
But when you listen and you start actually trying to see what people are saying and what are they trying to convey to you, not only can you learn a lot, but you can learn a lot about them.
yeah,
And I think for me, as like when I was younger, I used to talk a lot. And
mhm,
I was very, very curious. So
mm.
my mom was always telling me to, stop asking so many questions and
Aw,
all of these things. Um, but in a good way. But
yeah,
the thing is that when you're always going inward and pursuing like what's going on with you, I think
mhm,
you lose track of what's going on with everyone around you and going outward and
mm.
understanding like your environment.
Mhm, mhm,
Yeah.
yeah, and I say, "Ah," because I kind of I really understand that child every child has so many questions, and it must drive every parent nuts because it's almost like they're on duty full time just answering
Yeah.
questions, right? And if there's Yeah, I love that. Maybe that's going to be a podcast episode one day. I love that whole dynamic of that curious, interested, nonstop question asking child, and then the parent that like does not have answers and does not know how to keep living their life on call as the encyclopedia.
I'm sure there's somebody out there right now who that's super relevant to, who would love to talk about it.
Exactly. That's right. We'll get in touch. Okay, and so you said that you're with your clients, you have to really see where they are, where their positioning is, where they position themselves. And so that how do you do that? Like how do you get a peek in their mind?
Yeah, I think the biggest thing is just asking the right questions, asking them questions that go beyond surface level,
Mhm.
and then just shutting up and just letting
Yeah,
them talk. Because
right.
you've probably seen this, as well, is when you get people talking about themselves,
Mhm.
they can talk for hours.
Mhm.
And the key is just making them feel safe and making them
Mhm.
feel like you're somebody they can open up to.
Mm.
Typically, if they've invested money into me, then
Mhm.
that's already gonna, be
Right.
a given. But yeah, I think that's the biggest thing is just asking questions that makes them actually have to dig a little bit deeper,
Mhm.
and they'll just start to kind of spill things.
Mhm.
And then it's just up to me to actually listen and interpret it and then
Mm.
try to go from there.
Yeah. Yeah, the interesting thing that you said, let's see, what was it? You said that I was thinking, I don't even know who it was. It was someone I watched once, and it was a her or a him. I don't know who it was, but I think it was a he. And he was saying, you just keep saying, what else? What else? Like you say,
Mm,
what else? And then they respond, and then you say, what else? Right. And it's almost like that's never ending. If you, I don't know if you've ever tried that, but if you are ever in a conversation with somebody and they get to what feels like a very natural end, I mean, like it really feels like it's over. They've said everything, it's done, it's over, it's complete. And you say, what else? There's always something. They'll literally think, oh, what else? There must be something else. And it pulls up something else. And then when they
yes.
get to a natural end, it's like, what else? And there's always more. It's a never ending well, that what else.
That's so good. That reminds me of the 5 whys. Have you heard of that exercise?
I don't think so.
I don't know who I learned it from. It was years ago, but essentially when you're trying to solve a problem or you're trying to find a purpose in something, you just ask yourself why 5 times. So it's cool. I,
Mm.
I want to create content on social media. It's like, why? And then once you by the 5th why, you get to the root, the core of it. So similar concept, right? It's just keep going deeper, keep going deeper.
Exactly, because there's always something deeper. I was just saying that the other day because a lot of times people will say, when you say go deeper, they'll say that there's nothing else deeper. And so the point I was making recently was if you were to go outside and dig a half an inch down, you would have to get to something, right? There'd be something there. There can't be nothing there. There's something there. I mean, it might not be what you're looking for, it might not be a gem, okay, but
Yep.
it's going to be something. And then if you dig an inch down below that, there's going to be something there. There's always something. So this idea that, well, there's really nothing deeper to that, there's really nothing behind that, is just what the mind tells you. It's not necessarily the truth, because if you go deeper, you will find something. It's just a matter of, do you want to go deeper and do you want to find that something?
The key, right, is do you want to? Because sometimes it's scary.
Exactly. Yeah.
It's scary.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. I think it can be scary when you don't yet know that your emotions aren't necessarily real. They're always valid. I always say like whatever I'm feeling right now, it's 100% valid. It's not necessarily 100% real or true.
Mm.
And
Yeah.
so I think for me, a big turning point in my life was in terms of fear and how I move through things, was coming to the understanding that once I feel, no matter what I'm feeling, it's not true automatically. It feels automatically true. Right. So it feels absolutely gripping and automatically true, but it's not necessarily true. It could be, it might not be, but it's not automatically true. So once I think we get to the place where we know that our emotions aren't truth bearing information, they're just emotions, then we're not so scared about going deeper and seeing what's under there.
Yeah, I love that. And it
Yes.
is so true. How many times have we felt an emotion and it's so serious, it's world
Right.
ending, and then 10 minutes later it's gone and you're like, "Oh."
Exactly.
It happens all the time.
Do you know how many times I have felt like I was going to die? And, like,
No,
I'm still sitting here talking to you.
you're still here. That's a good point.
But seriously, if I could tally that up, it would be a ridiculous number. It would be in the many, many thousands. I mean, I have
Wow.
thoughts every single day tell me I'm going to die. I think I'm gonna die today. I think I'm gonna die when I do this. I think I'm gonna die. I think this might be my last day. I think this might be my last year. I mean, I can't tell you how many times my mind has said that over the many decades that I've been alive, and I'm still alive. And so it's not just that emotions aren't true, it's that thoughts aren't true. And once we get to that point where we understand that, it doesn't, I mean, they could be true. It could be, but it's not the kind of 100% certainty that we give it. We've And when we realize we don't have to give it that kind of certainty, it just gets easier to look under the covers or look a little deeper. Because if you think about it, the thing that scares people about looking deeper is, how am I going to deal with that? How, what am I going to feel? What is it going to mean? What am I going to think about that? So
I,
I
I
think that, yeah.
I just love this conversation. I love these types of topics. And something that I've noticed with myself and my clients and just friends, just talking to
Mhm.
friends and stuff, going deeper. Yes, there's the emotion. Yes, there's the thoughts. But I think, and this is something I talk about a lot in my content and just my business as a whole, is it it challenges their worldview
Mhm.
and their beliefs about themselves, their self-image. I don't know if you ever read into like self-image stuff, but it really challenges like their actual image of themselves and their
Mhm.
worldview, and that's just as scary, if not scarier,
Mhm.
than maybe a thought or an emotion. Because, and you see this all the time with maybe people who are 70 years old and they've been Christian their whole life. And obviously, I don't want to make this about religion, but it's just a good example
Mhm.
of how, there's comfort in knowing like, oh, I'm going to heaven and all of these things. And then if somebody were to show them somehow that maybe like Christianity wasn't real,
Mhm.
like they wouldn't even entertain it, because the thought of that worldview changing is just,
Mhm.
and they've lived it for so long, right? So
Mhm.
I find that as well is like another piece to this puzzle of why people are afraid of going deeper. Because what if everything I've thought up to this point is a lie, or believed or saw the world as a lie,
Mhm.
right?
It is really beautiful to get to a place where you have a belief about something and it's not based on fear of preserving it.
Yeah.
So if I'm someone, let's say I'm someone who believes in God, which I do, and
Mhm.
I say, well, I don't want to look down this avenue because I might find that that's not true. Then I am holding on to that belief based on fear. I'm holding on to that belief, and I mean, I think that's what you're talking about when you're talking about self-image. But if I say, you know what, I'm going to start to talk to God. I'm going to start to talk to God and see if there is something more that I am to know about this. I want to see if I'm hanging on to this out of fear, or if I'm hanging on to this, meaning like, if you stop being afraid of what you'll find, you might find that your belief is unshakable,
Yeah, yeah,
right?
no, that's a great point. And I think for a lot of those people, who are, invested into God their whole life and stuff,
Mhm.
yeah, it might not be out of fear. It might just be they have so much conviction that God is real and He's real in their heart. Absolutely.
Mhm.
I think it's great, and I do think that's a beautiful place to get to, is where it's not
Mhm.
fear based. And as far as the self image stuff, I was talking more about like identity based stuff. So self image
Mhm.
would be more like, I am. So kind of like I mentioned earlier, a lot of my clients, they don't quite see themselves as a business owner. So when they say I am a business owner,
Mhm.
or it doesn't sit right in their being.
Right. Mhm.
So those are the types of things when they go deeper and they try to figure out why. It's like challenging that I am blank. Right. And who knows? Even like for me, when I
Mhm.
first started writing online, uh, I started copywriting. That's how I got into
Mm.
entrepreneurship.
Mhm.
And when I first was creating my LinkedIn profile, I had been studying copy for, 4 or 5 months at that point.
Mhm.
And I remember writing my bio and I was like, I am a copywriter. And I was like, it
Mm.
felt weird. Like, I'm like,
Yeah.
am I a copywriter? Like it challenged how my self-image, like how
Mhm.
I identified.
Mhm.
And so yeah, I just think it's
Yeah,
interesting.
no, it makes total sense, and it's a really important concept. It can be applied to so many other things, and I think that's how we even got into the topic about God. I've also noticed that what we tell ourselves so dictates how we feel about things. And like I recently was thinking about like a lot of times it totally pertains to looking into other people's minds. A lot of times we think we know why people do things. So let's just say that someone in my everyday life does something that I think I know why they did. I'm trying to think of a real example without making it too real. Let's say someone does something like uh, goes into an ice cold pool of water in the winter and films a video. Okay. In my
Mhm.
mind, I think I know why they're doing that. Right? I think, and I'll tell you, right? So these are all my judgments. Okay. So these are all
Of
my
course.
judgments.
Yeah.
Okay. So all of my judgments are, okay. So they think in order to be like really strong and tough, they need to go into ice baths. All right. They think that in order to let other people know that they're really strong and tough, they need to
Mhm.
make a video while they're doing it. Right. These are all my judgments. Okay. Like these are all just, I'm owning them. Right. I take responsibility for them. I don't know if that's really why they're doing it, but when I see that, I go like, okay, that's why they're doing this. It feels clear, it feels obvious. I'm peeking into their mind, right?
Mhm.
Again, not who knows if it's true or not, but that's what I think. That's what I think it is. And so let's just say I get to know that person a little bit more and I start to understand, I don't know, some key thing about them, some key thing about them, and like all of that changes. And I'm like,
Yeah.
wow, they weren't really doing it for that reason. Right? So it's like a lot of times we think we know why people are doing things. And I mean, where I have used this in a lot of personal reflection is like when people have done things in our life that we feel really, really hurt by, or we feel has really hurt them, like they're hurting themselves, or they're hurting me, or they're hurting others, like really hurt by it. We feel really hurt by it because we think we know why they did it, because we think we understand what happened and that they knew the consequences and that it was going to affect us and going to affect them. It's like we think we have an inside view into their mind, but we don't always. And what if it was something totally different and you don't know what that is until the end? You know what I mean? Like, what if you don't know until the
100%.
end that the guy in the ice bath who I'm saying like, "Oh, come on, like why is he caving into this kind of peer pressure? Why does he think he needs to be in an ice bath to be tough? Why does he think he needs to show everybody on social media that he's tough?" Right? That's all my judgment. Let's say we get to the end, okay? Let's say I do die and I am sitting before God and God says to me, "Guess what that guy in the ice bath was doing?" And he tells me, and I go, wow, really? That's so beautiful. Like that's so touching. That's so sad that I had that judgment. And not only that I had that judgment, but like that judgment hurt me. Like that judgment hurt him. That judgment hurt. So it's like it's amazing how sometimes, because I am someone who thinks that I can understand what's going on in people's minds. Okay, I will take full full
Yeah.
100% responsibility for that. I'm
Yeah.
sure I know what's going on in your mind, like I'm sure of it. But even when I say that, when I say I'm sure of it, like that surety is a feeling. There's also a part of me that knows I could be 100% wrong. And so I think that is the danger, because I do feel a lot like I know what people are thinking and I know why they're doing things. And a lot of times it is true. Okay? I mean, like let's just say like if for people that are willing to explore that with me, like we can get to those places where they have that realization where it is true, but it's not always true. And there's a danger in thinking that I always know what's in people's minds.
Totally. And that's actually like a good sort of spin off of the topic, or another side to the topic of today, because yeah, I think when you, especially when you first meet somebody, right? Or you barely know them, you don't know them. When you're listening to them, it's like the topic of this conversation, right? Is
Mhm.
how they show you into their mind. Well, they could be manipulating what they're trying to show you
Mhm.
to think about them,
Mhm.
especially when you first meet someone. So it's obviously a little different if you had a partner for years, or you've
Mhm.
known your mom for your whole life. You know pretty well what your family members or whatever, like kind of
Mhm.
how they operate. But like when you meet somebody, they could totally be just trying to show you, playing a part.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's a little trickier to like base all their communication from that one interaction off, oh, I know how their mind works,
Mm-hmm.
of course. And I think what you said is really important because, first of all, it could just be an assumption.
Mm-hmm.
Or second of all, they could actually just be playing a part,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Right.
So it goes a little bit deeper the longer you know the person and the more
Mm-hmm.
conversations you can have. So if you
Mm-hmm.
meet someone at a cocktail party,
Mm-hmm.
and but there is part of me that does think, just the dual side of this, that
Mm-hmm.
most people are, if you really listen, they will show you. Like
Mm-hmm.
you can tell the person who you just meet and they're telling you about how much money they made in their yacht, and like that they're like
Mm-hmm.
there's something there that they want to prove to you that they have status, they have,
Right.
like,
Mm-hmm.
you know what I mean? So that is there.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't know, it's just such an
Yeah, I mean, that's
interesting
what I'm
conversation.
saying. Even though I'm saying that I think I understand people's intentions and why they're doing things, I'm not 100% right, but a lot of the times it is right. Right?
Yeah,
It just is
exactly.
right. But it's not,
Yeah.
oh, it doesn't mean it's always right. And in the cases where it really matters, right? For me, like in the cases where it really matters, I could be wrong. I could be wrong, or I could have just one little piece of it.
Yep.
And that one little piece could be disconnected from the bigger piece that is more important. So I like to just remind myself of, even though, because I think that the more you know, I mean, one of my big claims is that the more you know yourself, the more you know everybody else. Like the more I know my mind, the more I know your mind. And I have spent, I would say, more than anything else in my life, there's nothing I have pursued more than understanding myself and the mind. Nothing. I mean, like absolutely nothing. It's like my full-time job, meaning I do it in my sleep, I do it when I'm awake, I do it all the time. It's like a priority, right? Because for me, it's just about getting to a level of transparency where the mind isn't pretending to be something it's not. And it's really tricky. So like you said, you might
Yeah.
meet someone at a party and they might be saying one thing, but then you pick up all this other stuff underneath. Sometimes we're doing that to ourselves.
Probably most times.
Yeah.
For most people. I mean,
Right.
for myself, I've caught myself doing that so many times.
Exactly. So we're in this, it's like a tricky game. It's a very tricky game. And to really understand the pieces of your mind and the components of your mind and how it really works and what its goals are and what its objectives are and what its pitfalls are and all of those things, you have to be someone who's very, very watchful and very, very diligent. And when you get to that level of watchfulness and that level of diligence, you see things that in other people that there's no way they could see in themselves because they haven't put the time into going to those depths. But once you're already 5 feet below, like you're seeing everything that's 5 feet below. Like you can't
Totally.
not see it.
Yep. Like they don't even know they're doing it.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so the way, the best way to get a peek into someone else's mind is to just keep peeking into your own mind.
Cool. I love
You
that.
know?
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. And so and there's no right or wrong in terms of how, meaning if somebody said to me, yeah, I really don't want to know how my mind works, like I'm really not interested, I don't care, to me that's not right or wrong. Like just because I've spent my life pursuing it doesn't mean that I think it would be wrong for somebody to not pursue it if that's what they felt called to do. So there's certainly no judgment. Like what percentage do you think that you spend doing that? Like how much are you interested in getting to understand your own mind?
Yeah. I mean, similar to you, I can't say that I've devoted as much by the sounds of it, but
Mm-hmm.
that's definitely, I do a lot of inner work. I've
Mm-hmm.
been very spiritual since I was a child. I come from First Nations background, so like a lot of our, I guess, belief systems are, based off spirituality and going inward and understanding how we're connected to everything.
Mm-hmm.
So the fact that you say, oh, how I see myself in others,
Mm-hmm.
know thyself,
Mm-hmm.
is very much like what I believe as well. So yeah, I would say in a percentage wise, I'd probably say definitely more me than others.
Mm-hmm.
Meaning understanding myself more than others.
Mm-hmm.
Because even for me to tell you like earlier, oh, they're saying this, like this is what they're trying to tell me about themselves, or this is what they're showing. For me to even be able to interpret that data would mean
Mm-hmm.
I would have to understand it on a personal level.
Exactly. Right. Exactly. Yeah, and that's what makes for me, that's what makes life so fun. And I didn't always think it was fun. I mean, even now there are days I don't think it's, you know what I mean? There are moments I'll say I don't think it's fun. So I never ever want to paint the picture for anyone who could be listening, that, you know, you ever get to a point where you don't have a full range of emotions, where you don't have sadness and happiness and anger and joy. And right, I mean, for me, that's the full expression of life. I mean, those emotions aren't something you get rid of so that you can be happy all the time. Right. I mean, like happy all the time to in my worldview doesn't exist, because why would I why would I not want to feel sad at certain moments? Why would I not want to feel angry at certain moments? Why would I not want to feel frustrated at certain, like all of those are doorways into more parts of understanding myself. But uh the let's see, I was going to share something, but it's lost. It's completely
Okay.
gone. Yeah.
Okay, no problem. I do like that, that you touched on that about the happiness, because if you're happy all the time, is it really happiness? Because obviously happiness would just be the dual side of, being sad.
Right.
So how do you actually have happiness if you can't experience sad? So it's like a
Exactly.
full spectrum existence that we have.
Yeah. I do remember, but also what you just shared is like think about how many good things that have come in your life from being sad. Like what have you done with sadness that actually led you to something great? I mean, you don't have to answer necessarily, but I'm just
No,
putting the question
no,
out there, you know what I
I'm
mean?
I'm I'm
Yeah.
open to sharing. I mean, there's lots of things I can think of, sadness and anger.
Mhm.
Um, I can think of a past relationship
Mhm.
where, I guess we can get a little personal, like just with me anyway. She cheated on me, and I
Mhm.
remember at the time being so obviously hurt and sad, but
Mhm.
angry, betrayed.
Mhm.
But that anger was like what really fueled me to like get back to working out and just,
Mm.
you know what I mean? So even
Exactly.
though
Mhm.
it sucked, it definitely made me, and it also made me like learn how to deal with betrayal and such
Mhm.
pain. So on the other side of it, down the road, of course, the first couple months was not good, but
Mhm.
yeah, like it definitely catapulted me. It's like a slingshot. I think about it. Like it pulled me back, but then
Mhm.
when you let it go, so that's just like an example in my life that came to
Exactly.
mind. Yeah.
It's a great example. I and it's always like, "I'm sorry you had to go through that, and how great that you had to go through that." Right? I
Mhm.
mean, like, really, because I know how much it hurts, and I know how much relationship things can, like, oh, they hurt so deep, and it's so painful, and it feels so real and all-encompassing, like, it doesn't feel like there's anything else at that moment. At the same time, like you said, look at what it caused you to do. Like that, okay, inward self-reflection, and then what am I gonna do to be different? The only time it's unfortunate is when people don't take advantage of it, right? Like you
Yeah.
took advantage of it and you said like, "Okay, how am I gonna turn this into something good?" Unfortunately, some people, they don't have that part of them that kicks in, um, and
Yeah.
and they feel like the circumstances have to change. So I love that you're able to change, whatever happens for good. What I remembered of what I was going to say before is, when life I started to say, like, when life really got fun for me, and then I just wanted to make that point that, like, it fun for me doesn't mean that I don't have lows, that I don't experience hardship,
Yeah.
that I don't have challenges, that because I always say, like, every mountain you get to, it's not like, "Okay, I got to the top of the mountain, this is amazing, it's over." No, you just see the next peak. I remember, one the highest mountain I ever climbed, uh when I got to the top of it, I couldn't believe how many other mountain peaks I could see. I could not see those from down below. Like literally, I didn't even know they existed from down below. But when I got to the top and I looked out, like 360 degrees around me was just like more mountain peaks than I could ever imagine. But like I couldn't even see those till I was at the top of that one mountain. And so I feel like life is like that. Like a lot of times we think, oh, when I get to the top of this mountain, everything's going to be good. You know, it's like that a lot with business. I mean, you work with people who are in business, right? In business,
Of
we think,
course.
oh, if I could just make this much money a year. Oh, if I could just have this many clients. Oh, if I could just do this kind of a program. It doesn't matter what it is. We keep telling ourselves that if we could just get there, everything would be good. But no, it will be the same as now with just more circumstance. Right?
Yeah.
You're still going to have the highs, you're still going to have the lows, you're still going to have the desire, you're still going to have to go inward, you're still going to have to look outward. I mean, everything's still the same. You're still going to have to balance things, you're still going to have responsibility, you're still going to have to make decisions. It's like the same thing too. Like sometimes we think like, "Oh, if somebody just gave me like $5 million today, I'd be happy." But with that $5 million, like I guarantee, give it like a day and you'd be like, okay, like what do I do with this? Do I put it in the bank? Do I not put it in the bank? Might the bank close down, right? Should I keep some of it home? Should I give some out? Should I let my friends and family know I have it? Should I not? Right. So like all of like with that $5 million comes like a whole lot of things you've got to deal with. So we're always going to have things to deal with.
That's interesting.
Mhm. Mhm.
Yeah, I love it. So what are your thoughts then on goal setting and stuff? And or like how long do you think, also just to add on to that,
Mhm.
is should you embrace and celebrate hitting your goal before you keep moving
Mhm.
to the next one?
Definitely. See, I am a fan of celebrating, right? But
Yeah.
but not necessarily for, you know what's really interesting? You know what taught me this? Because I wasn't always such a fan of celebrating. I wasn't always such a fan of recognition. I'll call it like recognition. But I don't know if you know Toastmasters. Do you know Toastmasters? It's a public
No,
speaking organization. It's all throughout the
no.
world. It's an international organization. It's been around for 101 years. This is 101. There's chapters everywhere. And I am in a local chapter of Toastmasters, and it's literally just for public speaking and leadership skills. I mean, I when I was a teenager, I watched a video. It must have been a promotional video that Toastmasters International put out. I don't even know how I came across it, but I remember watching it, and it was like a few people in a room, and they were giving public speeches to one another, and I thought that is so strange, and I know I'm going to be in it one day. And then I really never thought about it again until it was January of 2020. And I said, okay, that's it. I had been speaking for years. I had been teaching and speaking, and I never liked it. I mean, I hated it as a kid, absolutely hated it. But I had gotten to the point where I was doing it a lot. And I said, I want to get to the point where I can speak to a room full of people. I can articulate my message to a room full of people as clearly as I can to a single person in front of me. That is my goal. So I joined Toastmasters. I said, "Oh, I remember that video I saw all those years ago. I'm gonna find a local chapter," and I found one, and I joined. Anyway, long story is in Toastmasters, they put out very clear objectives for each club in order for it to be a successful club. And one of those objectives is member recognition.
Mm,
And when I first heard that, I mean, you might understand this from a sports perspective, right? Like when I first heard that, now that was 2020. I mean, what was I like? I don't know, let's say 44 when I started, somewhere around there, 44, 45. So at that point in my life, all those years had passed by where to me, if somebody said like recognition, giving somebody a certificate, clapping, giving them a pat on the back, like it was meaningless to me. I didn't think it was something to spend 5 minutes on. Through Toastmasters, I've really come to understand how critical and how valuable that is for even just like the human spirit. So that kind of recognition, that kind of celebration, even if it's a 30-second thing where you're saying, wow, congratulations to so and so for completing their level 5, or for stepping up and being an officer in the club, or for whatever it is they're doing, like that goes so far. It's not just about what the person receives in that minute. It builds a sense of community. It builds a sense of community. It builds a sense of like, I'm part of something. Somebody else sees me, right? All of those things. And so while in the past I would have said like, pointless, forget it. Now Toastmasters has really taught me the value of recognition. So that celebration is what I would consider recognition. So it's like, yes, celebrate, have a 5-minute party or a 5-day party, whatever you want to do. but have that party be beneficial, meaningful, and help prepare you for the next leg of the journey. You know,
Gotcha.
don't let it be an all out, like, you know, I made it, because that's going to set you
That's
up for
dangerous.
disaster, right? So
Totally.
if you're like, I made it, and you spend those 5 days celebrating like that, you are going to be so low on day 6, because you're not going to be able to understand like why you're feeling the way you're feeling. But the human can never get to a place where it's ultimate, it's over, it's done, right? If you're human and you're alive and you're breathing, you have more to learn, more to grow, more to perfect. Even though you're not going for perfection, you know, you're still moving toward perfection.
Yeah. Oh, that's so good. There's so much to unpack there. It really makes me think a lot about sports too. When I was playing, you know, if you like, one of the mistakes that I made when I was playing basketball was we'd win like the city championships, and it would be like that was like the goal, right?
Right.
Or I was just so excited, and so it was just like. But then when you win the cities, you get invited to the provincials,
Right.
right? And so we over index on winning the city championships, and then so we already thought we had won
Mm-hmm.
and made it, like you said, made it.
Exactly. You
And then
made it.
we
Exactly.
went to provincials and we came like 8 out of 12.
Mm-hmm.
And it was just like so deflating. And I know it was because of that. But then
Mm-hmm.
at the same time, it's like you don't want to like overlook your wins either, because then you're
Mm-hmm.
just like always chasing and never. So I found
Exactly.
that to be something that I've had to learn how to juggle a little bit. So,
Mm.
and that's why I was kind of asking you about that, because I think it's this kind of balancing act where it's like, okay, we want to recognize, appreciate what we accomplished,
Yep.
but also make sure that there's still more and we're not
Absolutely.
settling.
Right. There's always more. There's always more. And what you said is like, it's so true. And that's where I find like there's so many pitfalls with business and people in business. And it's always about, and it's not just like this with business. I mean, it's like this with relationships. This is what I work with people on all day, every day, is them thinking like, when I get this relationship, or when I get this thing in the relationship, or when I get this level of this, or it's like, no, 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 you're setting yourself up for so much unnecessary devastation, right? It's not going to be any different than it is now. What are you feeling now? Like, what are you feeling right now? Let's say you feel frustrated in your relationship or frustrated in your business. Let's say you feel frustrated. Getting that thing, you're still going to have to deal with this frustration. It's just going to be a different thing pulling on that frustration string. So let's figure out how to deal with frustration. And then, do you want to be able to deal with frustration in a relationship or not in a relationship? Do you want to be able to deal with frustration with a $10 million business or with a $2 business? Like that's all that it comes down to. So it's never about like getting to some mountain peak, because when you get to that mountain peak, there's just, I sometimes I say to people, are you sure you want to solve this problem? Because that means you don't know what other problem is the next peak. I mean, like, we could solve it today, but, and I say that not because I want them to say, well, forget it, I don't want to solve it, but I say that because I want them to understand solving one problem doesn't mean you're problem free.
Yeah.
It just means you solved this problem, but there's going to be another problem tomorrow to solve, because you're a problem solver. That's what you are. So I love that you said how you tie this into sports. And I do think that there's so much value in understanding that, like, you get to the playoffs, you win, everybody's elated and excited, and you feel like you're on top of the world. And then you go to the next level and it's no longer there. And so it's really like, how do you celebrate in a way, right? Because remember before I said, like, yeah, celebrate, but in that celebration, do it in a beneficial way that's also setting you up for the next leg.
Yeah, I think it's so important. And I think too many people that I've chatted with, and honestly, when I'm speaking about this, I'm mostly speaking about myself. Like, I've done this so many times, especially in fitness as well. You know, I don't know how into fitness you are, but for me, there's always, you know, a new record you can hit, or a new PR, it's called personal record, right? So last year, I remember I hit a new PR for something called muscle ups.
Mhm.
And I remember like it was such a big goal of mine for a couple of years. And then when I finally hit it,
Mhm.
I was just like, I felt like I had made it. And then I just didn't keep pushing. I didn't go for 8. I didn't go for 9.
Mhm.
And I had to catch myself doing it. So yeah, this is good. This is giving me a lot to think about.
Yeah, and see, here's the thing. I've exercised a lot in my life, a lot of different types of exercise, a lot of different types of things, way less now than I ever have in the past. And one of the things that I kind of came to think about, at least when I was exercising, is it's great to have those goals, and it's even great to achieve those goals. And I would never say that anybody shouldn't have goals or shouldn't achieve goals, but you have to be really careful about what your mind makes those goals mean. And
Yeah.
so it's like, because think about it like this. Let's just say I decide today I want to get stronger in 2026. Like I've lost a lot of muscle. I want to get stronger. And so I set that as my goal. And perhaps I do get stronger. Okay, now we're at the end of 2026. Well, do I want to keep getting stronger? Like, do I want to up the weights, or do I want to stay the same, or do I want to go in the other direction? Like, I have to keep choosing one. And if you choose to keep getting stronger, you have to keep upping the weights. And
Of
so
course.
what does that look like? What does that look like for a life? Meaning, like, if you want to keep getting, let's say you start out with 1 pound at age 1 and 2 pounds at age 2 and 3 pounds at age 3, and you just keep going. Like, what does it look like when you're 70? Can you be doing 70-pound bicep curls? Like, is it possible?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, is it possible? And so if you have an understanding like that about these goals and then achieving them and then what it really means, I think it puts you in a much more balanced state to deal with the range of emotions that might come otherwise.
Yeah. Yeah. That's a great point. And if you miss it, if you don't reach the goal, is it going to ruin your whole year? Right. Like how much
Exactly.
weight have you given it? No, that's great. It's beautiful.
Yeah. Yeah, it's so many fun things, and it all comes from the mind. It all comes from a peek inside the mind.
It
Because this is
does.
right. I mean, all of this stuff is mind stuff. If we didn't have a
Absolutely.
mind, we would just be like sitting in one spot, I guess.
Robots.
We
Maybe
would just be like a
robots.
little blob. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Like we'd be like, okay, fully present. Like we wouldn't even be able to say that we were fully present because we wouldn't have a mind to be able to like really, but like you would just be a fully present blob. And you would just be moved by the wind, and that would be it. So it's the mind that really gives us the playing board, the playing pieces, the playing cards, everything. And then we have to decide how we want to use the board, the pieces, the money, the board, whatever the game comes with.
Totally. It's
Yeah.
cool though. It shows that we have a lot of more control and power than we think.
Yeah, we do. We absolutely do. And we have to separate ourselves out from the mind, because that's when we lose power. We lose power when we think we are the mind. Like we lose power when we think we are the sadness. We lose power when we think we are something better or worse if we get to that 70 pounds or we don't.
Yeah. Or our thoughts, like you kind of mentioned earlier, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like those thoughts that you were having that weren't true, never happened. You're not, we are not our thoughts.
Mm-hmm.
So
Yep, I'm gonna die. I'm sure I'm gonna die today. I could feel it on this trip. I'm going to die. And then it's like, okay, well, let's put it to the test. I mean, how many times has this thought not proven not true? So many. So how could I believe it? And the thing is, we do believe it. Like we do believe it. We believe it every time it comes up. We're like, uh-oh, really? Am I going to die? Maybe. I mean, I don't know, maybe. But like, where does that thought come from? It just comes. So there's all kinds of thoughts that just come. They just come in and out. They just blow through like the wind. And it's like we can either give them full power, or we can say it's just something blowing through.
yeah,
And who knows which one it is.
it's like Eckhart Tolle, right? He says it's just a cloud drifting through.
There's a lot of clouds.
A lot of clouds.
There's a lot of clouds.
A
And
lot
you
of
know what's fun? Clouds are fun. When I go out to take pictures, I go to the beach a lot to take, I mean, I love watching I love sunrise on the beach. And when I go, if I see full sun in the forecast, I don't even go, because clear blue sky with no clouds does not make for a good picture.
Hey, that's good. That's really good. That's a good one.
It does not. I mean, see, it's just like any other day. You know what I mean? It's like every other sunrise with a blue sky and no clouds. But once you bring those clouds in, like every single day you're there with clouds is always different, always a different picture, always a different scene, always a different feel. So the clouds are what absolutely make it. Now, if the clouds are so thick that you can't see the sun, that's a different story. I don't
Yeah,
go then either, right? So
of course.
no full clouds, no full sun. But like if it says partly cloudy, I'm like, yes, this is going to be amazing, right?
That's cool. I like that. I've never heard that
Yeah.
before.
Yeah. So what do you feel like is, I mean, I like your posts on LinkedIn. I think you post a lot of good stuff. I do feel like that's what you do. You position yourself as a safe person for people to explore some of their current beliefs. Right. And
Right. Thank you.
how they can move out of them and not be stuck in them, not be subject to them.
Yeah. Yeah. I
I
mean, the
like all
reason,
that. Yeah.
yeah, thank you. Yeah. I mean, I'm glad that it comes across that way to you as well, because for me, like I realized, even though most of, you could say like 80% of what I teach,
Hmm.
all my clients and stuff is a little more strategic and tactical, right? Like here's how you get clients, here's how you, whatever, right? But none of that actually matters if they don't like change or challenge their beliefs. They don't, like we talked about, the identity, their self-image. Like if they can't see themselves as someone who closes clients on a sales call, it doesn't matter how good of a script I give them
Mm,
if their
that's right.
confidence isn't there. And it's so,
Mhm,
so actually the 80/20 of the most important part of what I teach is the identity mindset stuff. But the thing
mm.
is, it's like, just to be honest, it's a lot harder to sell that. So I kind of lead with,
It is, yeah.
I
Mhm,
lead with this, you're going to learn the strategies and make money. But
mhm,
truthfully, at the core of what I do,
yep,
and honestly, all my client calls always end up coming back to mindset, come back to
right.
identity stuff. So thanks for saying that, because I really think it's a problem people don't know they have, which makes it
Mhm,
my job as the marketer to
mhm,
educate them on that,
right.
hey, like everyone thinks they have a tactics problem or a strategy problem,
Mhm,
when actually it's a mindset and an identity issue.
right. Mhm, yeah, that's awesome. And it's really great that you have found a way to market it in a way that brings people in because it's really true. Like if it's hard to get people to say, "I want to sign up and pay for mindset help."
Yeah, like
It's way
impossible almost.
easier to say, "I want to make $20,000 this month," right? So, like, it's amazing. And the thing is, the mindset, like you're saying, is where everything is at, but, like, nobody wants to deal with that. They just want the thing. They want the package in front of them. They want the money in the bank account, and I get it. I understand on a personal level even. Like, even when, um like if we're talking about relationships, a lot I would truly call I wouldn't call myself a relationship coach. I would call myself a communication coach, but the thing is people don't want better communication, they want better relationships. But better
Exactly.
relationships only come from better communication and
Exactly.
understanding yourself better and your communication with yourself better. But if I call myself a communication coach, people will be like, "Oh, I don't that has no
Yeah,
relevance in my life." You
exactly.
know what I mean? So, like, I
Exactly.
have to speak to the relationships because it's the relationships, those are the places where they're hurting. Those are the places where they say like, "Yeah, I wanna sign up to find out how I could attract the right man for me." Right? That's what they wanna know, but it all comes down to communication. And
Yep. And
meaning the mindset, knowing
totally.
when you know yourself, you understand communications, like communication and the self and the mind and understanding it all, it's like it's all very, very connected. So when you have a really clear understanding of yourself, meaning your objectives, and you're transparent and you communicate that way, that comes across way different to the person sitting across from you than if you don't know yourself and you don't know what your objectives are and you're communicating something other than what your real underlying objectives are. Like how many people walk around with a wish for a type of relationship, but they never even tell the person that they're in the relationship in with what that wish is. I mean, that's common. That's like common human behavior. I mean, I lived it
Sure.
for years. You know what I mean? Like, this is my wish. This is what I want this to be. And then like constantly measuring it up to whether or not it's on or off with my wish. Meanwhile, I haven't even been transparent about what that wish is to them and hardly transparent enough with myself about it either. So all that's communication.
Yeah.
It's all communication.
It is communication. And I love
Yeah.
it. Yeah. And just to touch really quickly on what you said about the selling the communication versus selling the relationships,
Mm-hmm.
it comes back to what we said earlier about just meeting people where they like understanding where they are and meeting them
Mm-hmm.
where they're at. Even if
Exactly.
you know that the issue is actually the other thing, you got to
Mm-hmm.
give them what they, what's that? There's that marketing saying. It was like, give them what they want, like
Mm-hmm.
up front, and then
Mm-hmm.
you can give them what they need after.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And
Um,
it's not even like a switch like that. Cause I mean, I trust that. I mean, for sure, I care greatly about my clients. Right. And I know you do too, just from seeing your posts and getting a sense of what you do. So, it's never like a mislead. I mean, like, I'm not misleading them to say like, oh, sure, we'll work on your relationships and then sneaking in communication. It's like, yeah,
no,
I have to understand really well what they want and need, which is the relationship, and then assess what is standing in the way of that. And it's always a matter of communication. That's what I mean. It's not like, what are relationship skills? They're communication skills. They're self When you understand yourself, and I would say understand your relationship with God, you understand your relationship with other people. Like, when you're connected to yourself and to the one who made you, right? You have a totally different perspective of relationships and connection and what you want and how to be transparent and all of that stuff. So,
yeah.
yeah, go ahead.
Well, I just want to be clear too. I didn't mean like tricking them, like, oh, I'm going to give you this and give them this.
I
I
didn't
just
think you
mean,
did. I didn't
yeah,
think you
yeah.
did. I
I
just
just mean
don't
it's
want a
more,
listener to think that's what we're saying.
no,
That's
of
why that's
course.
why I'm saying it. Okay.
And you'll see like when, for example, just a quick example is like
Mhm.
my clients come in and we have a tracker. So it's a
Mhm.
spreadsheet where we track like how many posts did you do this week? How many outreach messages did you send? How
Mhm.
whatever, right?
Mhm.
And so what'll happen is people will tell me like on the sales call before they join my program is like, I really want this. I'm ready. And I'm like, cool. And then once they join, they'll miss days and
Mhm.
they won't be filling out their spreadsheet. And
Mhm.
so yes, I'm giving them what they need to do, but then when we get on our call, our next coaching call, it's like, okay, well, what happened this week? No shame, just tell
Mhm.
me what happened. They're like,
Mhm.
oh, like, and guess what? It comes back to
Mindset.
mindset stuff, of course. So
Right.
that's kind of what I meant by it's like, hey, I'm going to give you all the stuff you need to do, but guess what?
Right.
The reason you're not going to do those things is because of the mindset stuff. So,
Exactly. Yeah,
yeah,
no, I don't want you to think that I was implying that you were saying that. I just wanted to make it very clear because I think that someone who's listening to us
yeah, we
might
don't want
might
that.
think that that's what we're saying, and
Yeah,
I just wanted to actually call that out and say that we're both coming from this place of care. I think that's obvious. But the thing that we think we need isn't always the thing that we actually need.
of course,
And sometimes it just takes a relationship with somebody to have that come to the surface,
totally. Yep.
right? Yeah. Yeah, so that's good. Good conversation. Is there anything that you feel like you would love our listeners to know about you or about the work you do or about peeking
Well,
inside people's
I was
minds?
gonna ask you a quick question too. Like, do you have
Yeah,
any?
sure.
I love asking people this because I'm a big reader. Do you have any books you recommend, just based off some of the things we chatted about today?
Hmm. Wow,
I
that's
know I put you on the spot.
I
I
gotta
put
think
you on the
about that. And it's
spot.
funny because I'm someone who I listen a lot. I listen to books on tape all the time. Whenever I'm out walking, I'm listening to a book on tape. So I listen very, very frequently. I go through lots and lots and lots of books. I'll say this, as I'm talking, I'm sure one book or one title will rise to the surface. But what I've come to really value in a book, whether I'm reading it or I'm listening to it, is not so much the content, but what the content drives in me.
Mhm.
And because a lot of times I realize that the books I go like, wow, this is such a good book. Like, what's happening is something that author is saying or writing and I'm reading, it sends my mind down a place that I wouldn't have gone if I didn't just hear what they said. So it's almost like and I'll tell you how this is something that has come to really be meaningful for me because you know how sometimes I don't know, do you listen to books on I say on tape? I'm 50. You know what I mean? I know I
Audiobook,
know
you
for
mean?
the younger
Or
people, they probably have it's like, "What is she talking about?" You know, but we used to listen on tape, and so even
that's
though
right.
even though I'm not listening on a tape, it's still on tape for me, like, that's still my language. But it's on Audible, and so I listen on my walks, I just put my headphones in, Do you listen to books or do you just read them?
Probably 90% of the books I read, and then I do have a few books on Audible just for my walks and stuff.
Okay. You might
Yeah.
notice this when you're reading too, but I notice it a lot when I'm listening is I listen to 5 minutes and then at the end of 5 minutes, I'm like, oh, I think I missed a whole minute there. Right. And there's a part of me that used to want to go back and hear it. But now I say, and that used to be frustrating. That used to be like a frustrating feeling, like, oh, my mind drifted and I went off and I missed what, and I have to go back and I have to go back and I have to go back. And I think that can happen to people a lot with reading too, like they lose focus. And
Mhm.
I stopped thinking that that meant something bad. I stopped thinking that that meant I have to go back. It's like, no, my mind checked out at that moment because there was something else that took priority. And why wouldn't I just assume that this book helped me go to that priority? Right. So just keep going. Like I didn't miss anything. It led me to wherever I was led and it was as valuable as it could have been. And so just move on. That really helped me a lot in reading. I do have an overwhelming need to give people what they want, so I do have to give you a book title. I just don't know what it is yet.
It's okay. Hey, you can message
No,
me and
I'm
after, no
I'm I'm
problem.
just being playful. I really want to think of a really good book. What's yours? What's a good book you read?
Oh, so many. Right now, I could just say one of the books I'm reading right now is The Almanac of Naval Ravikant.
And what is that
So,
about?
well, Naval's a very successful entrepreneur, investor, started a few businesses and stuff, but it's his guide into wealth and
Mhm.
happiness.
Huh.
So he's more of like it's more of a philosophical book, you could say. He's not
Mhm.
like teaching you how to get rich and just make money online, right? It's
Mm.
building real wealth,
Mm.
and happiness and so like
Yeah.
purpose and meaning in your life. And it's
Purpose and
it,
meaning, that's right.
yeah,
Mhm.
so it's been a great book so far, and I
Mhm.
look up to him in terms of an entrepreneur because he's just been so successful. So
That's awesome. Yeah, I
yeah.
think it's really fun to read about other people's success because it does teach you a lot. Like, you know how many people say, "Oh, read people's biographies." I've never read people's biographies, but they say that like, you take somebody who's done some amazing things and you read about their life. It's inspiring. There was a
So inspiring.
guy I saw a YouTube, not a YouTube, a TEDx talk not too long ago. I mean, it's an older talk, but this guy talked about how when he was younger, he had a lot of focus problems. And then when he got to be a certain age, he decided he was just going to start to take his 5 minutes of focus, which was all he could actually count on, and do all kinds of things in that 5 minutes of time. And if you listen to the amount of things that he accomplished as an adult, your mind would be blown. And it was so fun to listen to him talk about all of that, including like things that you might even think are so far out there that like seem like, I mean, he was knitting and crocheting. He wanted to be in the Guinness Book of World Records for the biggest granny square, which is something that he crocheted or knitted. Like all of these things, and he wasn't even into knitting and crocheting. I mean, that wasn't where he started. He did a lot of things business wise, like really like climbed the success ladder and then times 10.
Mhm.
But then
Wow.
like started expanding out. Like he was like, I want a new hobby. I want to do this. And he was out hiking and he saw somebody put this knitted thing around a tree. And he was like, wow, they put these things on trees. Like, I want to see what that's about, and started doing that. So he let all of his moving, varying focus lead him to all these different things. And he created so much. So I think it's fun to read, like you said, about someone who's been successful and just hear how they did it and what they did and understand their mind a little bit.
Yeah,
Yeah.
agreed.
A really good book. A really good book.
Yeah.
I read a really good book. I don't think it's going to appeal to everyone. I mean, but honestly, it was the best book I've read in a long time. It was a little book on forgiveness. And I say it won't appeal to everyone because it does have the God component in there. And I know not everybody is into the God component. And so, but the reason that I really liked the book is because it was so rich in story. It was
Mhm.
a story, like from beginning to end, and I love understanding how much story teaches. Like story teaches us so much. We learn so much through story that we could never learn through teaching.
Yeah, totally. We think it's stories, really.
Yeah. It was such a
Okay.
beautiful story. It was so sweet. It was so beautiful and so sweet. Like, you know, if you watch a good story or read a good story in a book, I mean, it moves you through all kinds of emotions. You want to see what happens next, right? To me, that's like a good book. I read a lot of books that aren't stories, that are more like accounts or you know, sharing what they did or sharing what they, and those are all good, but they don't stick in my mind. Like the ones that stick in my mind is like that little storybook.
Totally.
And it's funny how I found it too. I was looking for some books on forgiveness because I did a forgiveness challenge last year and I love the topic of forgiveness. Love it. It's hard. It's really hard for us to forgive people that have done such terrible things, you know, that we've decided are terrible. And it's hard for a lot of people. They struggle with it. So as the one of the gifts I gave to the winner of the forgiveness challenge, nobody really wins or loses, but the person who, you know, like showed up the most, was most active in the chat, was, you know, did all of those things, really committed to herself. I always like to get that person a gift. And so I was looking for some forgiveness books just to see what was out there. And I came across this little book and I thought like, wow, like, I don't know, right away it lit me up. Maybe it was like the picture on the cover. It was a story. I could tell it was a story. And so when I before I ever sent anything to anybody else, I want to check it out for myself. I read the book and I was just blown away by the story. And I don't even know the name of it. I could get it to you if you wanted it, but I think story is where I'm at right now, with just loving the story, being pulled in.
Cool. I
Yeah,
love that. And if you
yeah.
could get me the book, if you do
I
have
I
the time,
I
please.
will. I have
If you
it.
have the time. Okay, sweet. Yeah, yeah. Because
And yeah,
sounds great.
and I think it's like if you sit down to read a book that you could read in one day. I mean, and it's a short book, but what I mean is it takes, let's say, 2 hours. Like, you know, it's a good book. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Where you don't want to stop reading and you're like, what happens next? Where is this going? What's going to happen? You know, like it's to me that is, and I think it's so meaningful to me too, because I am always looking to build my storytelling capabilities just as a
Yeah.
speaker. Like, you know, if you
Totally.
go and give a speech somewhere, like if you can tell a story, you really connect with people. And the best story is when people don't know it's a story,
Nice. Yeah,
right?
totally.
So I just like to keep working on my storytelling, and I think that that's a fun pursuit. All right, so Darion, is there anything else? I mean, like, this has been really fun. It's been great to talk with you, to get to know a little, to get a little peek inside your mind, and for you to
Yeah.
share the things that you have. I love what you're doing in the business world. I love that you're helping people with their identity and getting to that place where they can say with confidence, "I am a business owner."
Thank
That's
you.
awesome. That's awesome.
Yeah,
Yeah.
thank you. Yeah, no, I mean, the biggest thing that I would just want to leave anybody wouldn't, it's not a pitch or anything. It's just keep pursuing your curiosity.
Yeah.
Just never stop.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And where do you hope to get with it?
With my curiosity,
Yeah. Yeah. With your
just what we just talked about, just always exploring, going, like, we're never finished.
whatever.
So,
Yeah.
like for me, I told you before we started recording, I'm an audio engineer, certified, went to school for it, right? I don't really talk about that on LinkedIn, but it was in school when I was studying audio engineering that I learned about, online copywriting. And I was like, that
Mm.
sounds cool. And then look, now I'm coaching. And
Oh,
like, it's
yeah.
just, my curiosity has just made my life just this beautiful river. And
That's
so
awesome.
that's why I think we all just need to just keep exploring. If something piques your interest, don't ignore it.
Aw.
Yeah.
Yeah, we started out the conversation. You said you were a curious kid, and you're still a curious
Yeah.
adult, right?
It'll never change.
Yeah, and it's so funny because I was on a walk yesterday and I was rounding the corner close to home and I saw a woman walking her dog. I always see people walking their dogs and sometimes the dogs aren't friendly. But this dog just
Yeah.
seemed really, really adorable, like curious. It had a curious nature to it. And I even said to her, "Oh, he's so curious." But and after I said that, I said, "Uh-oh, maybe she thinks," like, you know how people get very upset or defensive about their dogs. At least they
Of
do around
course.
here. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I'm
Oh,
thinking,
yeah.
"Oh no, she's probably thinking like, well, what does curious mean? And is that a good thing or is that a bad thing?" Or, I mean, I meant it as a good thing, but I loved to see its little curious nature. Like, it was so cute. So I think that curious nature is such a beautiful thing. And like you said, it just leads you to different places and you see where it takes you.
Yeah.
Okay, well, this has been awesome. I think we went deep, and we got to some of the we got to see a little peek inside of your mind, maybe a little peek inside of my mind. Hopefully, the listener feels like they got a little peek inside their mind, because that is the thing that really helps us get to know each other more, ourselves more. We get to know each other more by knowing ourselves more. I have a journal prompt membership that helps you go a little bit deeper. It helps you get into some of these places within yourself that you wouldn't normally go otherwise. Think about it like this: the only time you get an answer for something is when you have a question for it. And if that question doesn't exist, the answer doesn't exist. So these questions are meant to drive you a little bit deeper into answers that you wouldn't get otherwise. If that's something that you're interested in going that one level, it could be an eighth of an inch, it could be 8 feet, it could be anything you want it to be. But you get a journal prompt every day, Monday through Friday, weekends off. You also get a call once a month with me and others in the community. And you get a seasonal clarity package in the mail, which is kind of like it's like a mini nature retreat, but it helps give you the kind of clarity that could really benefit you right now in your relationships. Because your relationships, whether it's personal or professional, are often reflecting something inside of you that you're ripe to go a little bit deeper with. So I'll have a link to that in the show notes. I'll also have Darion's information in the show notes if he can be of service to you, or you would like to reach out to him or get in touch with him. We thank you so much for being here and for listening. Keep saying it straight, and we'll see you next time. Thank you, Darion.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.